Hi everyone, today I've prepared a recap of the movie Take Shelter. Curtis stands in his backyard and witnesses a terrifying sight. A massive tornado funnel begins to form nearby, and a strange oily-colored rain falls from the sky. But soon he realizes it's just another nightmare. Once again, he decides not to tell anyone about his dreams. Curtis is an ordinary family man, with a loving wife and a young daughter, Hannah, who suffers from hearing loss. After saying goodbye to his family, he heads to work at a local construction company. However, this time their work is interrupted by a storm. He and his colleague, Dewart, waited out in a bar. Before parting ways, the slightly drunk Dewart notes how lucky Curtis is to have such a family. Back home, Curtis hears his wife's request to clean up the yard. Their daughter Hannah found a board with a nail and could have hurt herself. That night, Curtis has another disturbing dream. He is in the backyard with Hannah as a violent storm approaches. The situation escalates when their dog Red breaks loose and attacks Curtis. When Curtis wakes up, he is surprised to find his hand, bitten in the dream, actually hurts. He decides to limit his daughter's interaction with Red for a while. At work, Curtis and Dewart are harshly reprimanded by their boss for ending the shift early the day before due to bad weather. After the scolding, they head to their work site, and Curtis notices a murmuration, a flock of birds moving in eerie patterns that seem to signal something ominous. Throughout the day, his hand continues to hurt. Coming home late, Curtis goes with Samantha to a parenting class for parents of children with hearing impairments. Still in his dirty work clothes, nearly causing an argument between the couple. In another unsettling dream, Curtis sees himself and Hannah in his pickup truck during a storm. Due to poor visibility, he almost hits a figure in white, resulting in a crash. Regaining consciousness, he watches helplessly as strangers attack them and kidnap his daughter from the vehicle. On Sunday morning, Samantha and Hannah go to a yard sale to sell old things. Left home alone, Curtis decides to build a fence around the doghouse and relocates Red there. Then his attention shifts to the old storm shelter. Going inside, he finds only a small room with a bench. An idea forms in his mind to repair and upgrade the shelter. That night, Curtis dreams that Hannah is watching the heavy rain through the window. Outside, he sees a shadowy figure and, gripped by fear, pulls her away. The stranger begins pounding on the door, and suddenly the entire house is lifted into the air, as if carried by a tornado. He wakes up to find he's wet the bed. Embarrassed, he decides to hide it. The ongoing stress and hidden fears begin making him irritable, and he starts arguing with his wife over small things. Later, Curtis takes Hannah to the library. While she looks through a children's book, he searches for literature on psychiatry. On the way back, they stop by the supermarket, where Curtis stocks up on canned goods. As a result, they are late to a family dinner, where he casually mentions his plan to fix up the shelter. That night, Curtis works on the bunker and reads the books he borrowed. In the morning, he visits the local doctor, Dr. Shannon, and tells him about his nightmares, hoping for medication. The doctor prescribes him a mild sedative and recommends a reputable psychiatrist. Meanwhile, Samantha learns that a doctor has been found who can perform cochlear implant surgery for their daughter, a procedure that could restore her hearing. Curtis's good insurance will cover the expenses. Excited, she shares the news with him. That night, Curtis takes the sedative and sleeps peacefully for the first time in a while. But during his next shift at work, he suddenly hears thunder, even though the sky is clear. Panic overtakes him, and he abruptly leaves the site. On the way home, he notices a large cargo container for sale. That same day, Curtis visits his mother, who lives in a care facility, and asks how her schizophrenia symptoms began. She tells him she never had nightmares, but constantly felt like someone was watching her. Curtis begins to suspect he's developing similar symptoms. Still, that night, he draws up a list of things needed to equip the bunker. In the morning, he goes to the bank and takes out a loan against their home to finance the project. Back on the job, Curtis apologizes to Dewart for leaving the day before, and during lunch, asks him for help building the storm shelter. Dewart agrees without hesitation. Later, Curtis meets with a psychologist named Kendra, who tells him that test results show he does not have schizophrenia, but rather symptoms of psychosis. At her request, he shares the story of his mother, whose paranoid schizophrenia fully manifested when she was the same age Curtis is now. She once left 10-year-old Curtis in a parking lot and was found a week later rummaging through garbage bins in a neighboring town. That evening, the family attends their usual sign language class. On the way home, while his wife and daughter sleep in the car, Curtis watches lightning flashing in the sky and wonders if anyone else can see it or if it's just him. On Sunday, while Samantha and Hannah are busy at the fair, Curtis and Dewart bring an excavator from work and begin expanding the storm shelter, turning it into a full-fledged bunker. When Samantha sees what Curtis is spending money on, she becomes furious, which leads to a serious conflict. This, along with the recently taken loan, causes a fight between them that night. Still, Curtis doesn't explain why he moved Red outside or why he spends so much time in the underground shelter. Before bed, Curtis decides to increase his dose of the sedative, hoping it will work better. However, during the night, he becomes ill, and Samantha is forced to call an ambulance. After the danger passes, Curtis finally opens up to his wife about his recurring nightmares, in which he is haunted by a terrifying storm. In the latest dream, he saw Dewart suddenly turn on him in a rage and attack him with an axe. Curtis begins to suspect that he might be experiencing the same mental illness as his mother, but he swears that he will never abandon his family. The next day before heading to work, Curtis asks his boss to transfer Dewart to a different crew, explaining that it's too difficult for him to supervise his best friend. Although hesitant, the boss agrees. While Dewart is still unaware of the decision, the two of them lower a large shipping container into the hole they've dug. Curtis continues spending money, buying gas masks for the entire family. When his older brother, concerned about Curtis's condition, tries to check in on him, Curtis insists that everything is under control, and even gives him the dog, Red. That night, Curtis dreams that it's raining endlessly outside his home, and Samantha is standing soaked in the kitchen, staring at him, then shifting her gaze to a knife lying on the table. Upon waking, Curtis begins to feel fear, even toward his own wife. Later, his boss visits him and informs him that Dewart suspects Curtis had him transferred on purpose to set him up. In retaliation, Dewart revealed that they used construction equipment for Curtis's personal project. As a result, Dewart was fined and Curtis was fired, though they allowed him to keep his insurance for only 2 more weeks, putting Hannah's scheduled cochlear implant surgery in serious jeopardy. With problems piling up, the tension between Curtis and Samantha escalates, and in a burst of rage, Samantha slaps him across the face. None of the psychologists are able to help Curtis cope with his condition, and he continues working on fortifying the bunker. Samantha begins to suspect that Curtis may have completely lost his mind and could pose a danger to their daughter. Yet she makes the decision to stay by his side and face these hardships together. The family attends a Sunday dinner where almost the entire town has gathered. There, Dewart confronts Curtis, demanding to know why his former friend had him transferred to another crew. This escalates into a physical fight. Curtis fights back and finally decides to tell everyone, those who think he's crazy, about the massive, destructive storm that's coming. But seeing no reaction from those around him, he breaks down in tears, and his wife and daughter gently lead him away. That night, Curtis dreams of the approaching storm and a flock of birds flying toward him and his daughter, then suddenly falling from the sky. At that moment, the family is awakened by a real siren. They run outside through the pouring rain and take shelter in the underground bunker. Curtis makes his wife put on a gas mask and his daughter wear an oxygen mask. Sometime later, Samantha wakes Curtis, telling him that it's safe to remove the gas mask and asks him to open the bunker. The storm has passed. Curtis cautiously approaches the door and says he still hears thunder outside, though neither his wife nor his daughter hears anything. Samantha again asks him to open the door, but Curtis refuses and hands her the key. She doesn't take it, saying that if he doesn't open the door himself, he will stay trapped in the bunker forever and never overcome his fears. Pushing through his fear, Curtis finally opens the door and sees sunlight. Everything is calm outside, no thunder, no rain. People around them are busy cleaning up after a mild storm. Realizing he was wrong, Curtis embraces his family. Later, the couple visits a psychiatrist who prescribes Curtis the necessary medication and advises them to take a short trip away from the bunker, followed by inpatient treatment. The family manages to find the means to rent a cottage by the sea. Curtis starts to feel better, and it seems like life is finally getting back on track. But suddenly, he sees a waterspout forming over the sea, and then another one. At first, Curtis thinks they're just hallucinations. However, Hannah makes a sign indicating a storm is coming, and Samantha sees drops of the same strange, oily rain falling from the sky, just like in Curtis's dreams. Realizing everything Curtis said might be true, the couple exchanges a look of deep concern. The beginning of what he feared most is now becoming reality. And that's where our video comes to an end. We hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching.